Hi everybody and welcome. Thanks for stopping by and checking out my channel and today's video. We're going to be talking about The Ink Black Heart by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. This story is dark, I'll tell you that, and it plays in the gaming community on YouTube. The bullet points. The Ink Black Heart is a crime action fiction novel by j.k. Rowling, written under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith, and is the sixth novel in the c.b.strike series. It's for readers 13 plus and was published in August 2022 by Mulholland Books. The book has 1,408 pages, look how thick it is, and that's an estimated reading time of about 16.5 hours. A similar book is The Whistler by John Grisham. To the author, behind the pseudonym Robert Galbraith is the British best-selling author J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, The Casual Vacancy, as well as the 6 crime novels c.b.strike. This series includes The Cuckoo's Calling, The Silkworm, Career of Evil, Lethal White, Troubled Blood, and The Ink Black Heart, which topped the international bestseller lists and have been adapted as series for film and television. J.K. Rowling is also a screenwriter and film producer. When she's not writing, she spends her time reading, preferably books by Jane Austen. J.K. Rowling was born in 1965 in the small southwestern English town of Yate, near Bristol, to Anne and Peter Rowling, and has a sister 2 years younger named Diane. After her birth, the family moved to Winterbourne, where J.K. Rowling started school in 1970. She had an early desire to become a writer, and at the age of 5 or 6, she invented the story of a rabbit suffering from measles. In 1974, the Rowling family moved to Tutshill near Chepstow in Wales. Here we can see her former house. There she attended Wydian Comprehensive School, and after leaving school in 1983, she studied French and Classics at the University of Exeter, graduating in 1987. She then worked in Paris as an English teacher and held various office jobs, including 2 years with Amnesty International in London. In 1989, she moved to Manchester to live with her then boyfriend, and during this time she worked on 2 novels for adults, which she never published and later destroyed. In 1991, Rowling moved to Portugal, where she worked as a teacher at Encounter English School in Porto in the afternoons. During this time, she wrote a lot on the first of her Harry Potter books. There in 1992, she met the Portuguese television journalist Jorge Arantes, whom she married in October 1992. After the birth of her first daughter in 1993, she separated from her husband because he became violent, and she moved back to the UK, where she settled in Edinburgh. As a single mother of a young child, she had to live on welfare at the time, during which she continued to work on the first Harry Potter volume. Here you can see the Elephant House. It's the cafe in Edinburgh where Rowling wrote the first volume of Harry Potter, which she published in 1997. The rest is history. She has been happily remarried to Scottish Dr. Neil Murray since 2001. 2 years later, their son David was born, and again 2 years later, little daughter Mackenzie was born. Today, the family lives in Edinburgh. If you want to know more about J.K. Rowling's life, you can watch Magic Beyond Words, the J.K. Rowling story. I'll link it below. Yeah, this to the author. Let's move on to the summary of the story. The story begins with the desperate Edie Ledwell showing up at the office and wanting to talk to private detective Robin Ellacot. Edie appears disheveled and erratic, wearing expensive accessoires on the one hand, but seems unkempt overall. Edie explains that she is the co-author and creator of the popular cartoon The Ink Black Heart and runs a successful YouTube channel with it. This cartoon is even to be made into a movie. Now she is being terrorized by former followers led by a mysterious online character with the pseudonym Enemy, who has even developed his own game from the Ink Black Heart. Edie feels so threatened that she desperately tries to find out the true identity behind Enemy. Robin doesn't quite know what to make of the whole situation, nor does the detective agency really have the resources to take on another case, so she decides not to take this one. Days later, Edie's body is found in the Highgate Cemetery, the plot location of the Ink Black Heart, and her co-creator, with whom she was supposed to meet there, is injured so badly that his life is hanging by a thread and he ends up in intensive care in a coma. Of course, Robin now feels a heavy conscience, and she and her business partner Cormoran Strike are also drawn into the investigation. Of course, it is necessary to uncover the identity of Enemy, which proves to be extremely difficult since there is a complex network of pseudonyms in the online community, and clues to the true person behind it are veiled, especially that in the gaming community of the Ink Black Heart also participants from right-wing extremist circles and groomers are hiding. In addition, Edie comes from a difficult family background and the relationship with her business partner and former lover is broken, and then the cartoon is also to be made into a film. Thus, the business interests, political interests, family conflicts, and love and jealousy issues come together, and the threads of the investigation get lost in all directions. The combination gifts of Cormoran Strike and Robin Ellacot are stretched to the limit. They also struggle with staff shortages and difficulty interpreting the conflict signals within their own relationship. They are drawn so deeply into the web of this case that even their lives are threatened in terrifying ways, and they narrowly escape death. Yes, this to the summary. Let's move on to my impression. First of all, it's a very thick book. Gotta love it. What I liked is that in this story current political issues are brought up and pitfalls of social media such as the ruthless shaming and the hate comments behind the anonymization are addressed, and how quickly people, especially young people, can lose themselves in the social world. Also addressed is the narcissism and self-promotion of some influencers, which leads to a distortion of self-image, which is also transferred to the users. Also discussed is the fact that the internet allows radical political groups and fanatics to skillfully influence young users in particular and draw them to their side. And also the topic of grooming is addressed. Unfortunately, parents often have no control over who their children talk to on the internet and how great the dangers are that they are exposed to, especially if they reveal too much personal information about themselves, because the internet forgets nothing. I found the main characters very sympathetic and authentically portrayed. Both the language style, the tone and the narration, as you would expect from this author, was without a doubt sublime and a joy. I could picture everything very vividly. She's a captivating storyteller who creates dazzlingly elaborated figures, and the dialogues were natural. I also liked the great quotes before the chapters that gave a preview of what was going to happen. Also the showdown at the end of the story and Cormoran's touching gesture to Robin gave a nice conclusion that leaves hope for further volumes. In my opinion, the book has too much stuff. Of course, to confuse, but this made it difficult because of the extended focus on the online conversations with the many aliases in the gaming community, with short, witless sentences like lol, etc. I got off partway through and had to force myself to keep reading. It would have been nice if at least the appearance of the individual gaming participants had been described, but so I had only names. Then some of these many characters don't appear for a long time, so I had already forgotten who is who and who has which pseudonym. These could still be kept manageable in a short novel, but in such a thick novel I don't think it's a good idea because it made it harder for me to enjoy reading and it interrupted the flow of reading. Also, I couldn't afford to take a longer break while reading, or I wouldn't have been able to get back into the story. The story in and of itself was actually very exciting, but with too many plot locations and too many subplots. I understand that the author wanted to mislead the readers and make it difficult for them to track down the culprit, but here there were definitely too many. Therefore, I think that less would have been more, also because the interpersonal relationships between the main characters dragged the story even more unnecessarily. Also there I found one could have told shorter and more condensed. Some events were over the top and thus not very believable. I will not go into more detail here so I don't give away too much of the story. Unfortunately, with the sheer volume of such important issues, there was a delusion here as well, and the individual dangers could no longer be weighted appropriately. As I said before, the book was exciting, but unfortunately, in my opinion, the story lost steam because of the length and the many protagonists, plot locations and subplots, and I often thought to myself, get a move on. In addition, someone who reads a lot of crime novels and combines the hidden clues well can identify the culprit quite early, and therefore the story drags on almost endlessly. This, to my impression. Let's move on to the conclusion. The Ink Black Heart is something for those who really like really big books. With over 1,000 pages, this demanding crime novel really requires stamina. Really. Once again, the likable detective duo of c.b.strike and Robin Ellacot solve an almost unsolvable case that dives into the depths of the internet and addresses issues such as cyberbullying, racism, misogyny and other dangers of the World Wide Web. My feelings about these books are ambivalent. It didn't quite meet my expectations. I find it the weakest volume in this series so far. Still, the story is exciting with fantastically developed characters and a must-read for any fan of the c.b.strike series. What I like about this series is that they are self-contained as individual stories and can be read independently of the other volumes. Will I be reading more c.b.strike cases? Absolutely. Do you like this video? I have a lot more like this to come. If you don't want to miss any of these, well, there's just one thing to do. Subscribe to my channel. Ta-ta! Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.